I'm Noah 32 and I've spent my life being the responsible one in my chaotic family. After years of hard work, I finally landed my dream job in Singapore. I was about to share my exciting news when my phone lit up with a message from my sister. Your house is perfect for the family during renovations. We'll all stay with you for 3 months. My stomach dropped as I stared at my accepted job offer. I'm about to share what happened when my family decided to move in, right as I was moving out. If you're watching, drop a comment letting me know where you're from and subscribe to hear more family drama stories like mine. In my family, I've always been the fixer, the one everyone calls when things fall apart. Growing up with 3 siblings in a household where drama was served daily like breakfast cereal, I learned early to be the calm in the storm. Madison, my older sister by 2 years, was the passionate one with big ideas but little follow-through. Ryan, my younger brother, floated through life expecting others to handle the details. And Paige, the baby of the family at 24, had perfected the art of getting what she wanted with a well-timed smile. Then there were my parents. Mom, a high school art teacher who approached life with creative chaos, and Dad, a contractor whose solution to every problem was to build something around it. They loved us fiercely but ran our household like a friendly hurricane. Someone had to be the eye of the storm. That someone was me. By the time I hit 30, I had built myself a sanctuary. My Portland house wasn't just a home. It was a statement that I could create order from chaos. 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, an open kitchen that flowed into a living room with windows overlooking a small but meticulously maintained garden. Every piece of furniture carefully selected, every wall color chosen to create calm. No random piles of projects like at my parents' house, no roommates leaving dishes in the sink like my college days, just peace, order, and quiet. My career path had been equally intentional. Computer science degree followed by 6 years at a respectable tech company in Portland, climbing the ladder methodically. Project manager by 28, senior project manager by 30. I had a reputation for bringing calm to chaotic development cycles, for translating between the engineers who spoke in code and the executives who spoke in deadlines. The Singapore job listing had appeared in my inbox like a sign. Senior Technology Implementation Director, Southeast Asia Division. The description might as well have had my name on it. International experience, a significant salary bump, and the chance to build something from the ground up. I applied on a Sunday night, not telling a soul. 3 interviews later, each one scheduled during lunch breaks or early mornings, so no one at work would notice I received the offer. 2 years minimum in Singapore with potential for permanent relocation, if things went well. The salary was nearly double what I was making, plus housing allowance and international benefits. We need an answer within the week, Diane from HR had said during our last call. The position starts in 3 weeks, so we'll need to move quickly with visa processing and relocation. You'll have my answer tomorrow. I had promised already, knowing what it would be. That night I booked a one-way ticket to Singapore for the following week. The company had arranged a temporary apartment until I could find my own place. My new life was taking shape with the same methodical precision I applied to everything. Then came the message that threatened to unravel it all. Our family used a group chat that pinged throughout most days with updates, complaints, jokes, and the occasional passive-aggressive comment disguised as concern. I had been quiet in it lately, preparing for how I would announce my departure. Madison's message appeared with the enthusiasm that characterized all her announcements. Big news, everyone. The renovation crew gave us dates for the house project. They start the first week of next month, and it'll take 3 whole months. Ryan, Paige, Mom, Dad, and I have been talking, and since Noah has that big empty house with all those spare rooms, we figured we'd all just stay with him. Your house is perfect for the family during renovations. Before I could even process this, the responses flooded in. Ryan, sweet dibs on the room with the attached bathroom. Paige, I call the room with the morning sun. Noah, do you still have that comfortable couch in there? The blue one. Mom, this is perfect timing. I've been wanting to spend more time with my Noah bear anyway. I'll bring some of my new paintings to brighten up those walls of yours. Dad, son, I'll fix that squeaky floorboard in your hallway while we're there. Been meaning to do that since you bought the place. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. How had an entire plan been hatched without anyone asking me? More importantly, how was I going to tell them that not only would I not be hosting a 3-month family reunion, but I wouldn't even be in the country? I called Taylor my best friend since college, and the only person who knew about Singapore. They want to do what Taylor asked after I explained the situation. Move in, all of them, for 3 months, starting next week. When were you planning to tell them about Singapore? I was going to have them all over for dinner tomorrow night. Make their favorite foods, break it to them gently. And now I'm going to have to tell them they can't stay at my house because I won't be there. And by the way, I'm moving to another continent in 7 days. Taylor was quiet for a moment. You know what's going to happen, right? They're going to make this about them. They're going to act like you're leaving specifically to avoid helping with their renovation situation. I sighed because Taylor was right. What would you do? I'd still have the dinner. Tell them all at once. Rip off the Band-Aid. After hanging up, I sent a message to the group chat. Family dinner at my place tomorrow at 6. I'm cooking. Important things to discuss. The responses were immediate and predictable. Madison, perfect timing. We can discuss sleeping arrangements and who gets which room. Ryan, can we talk about internet bandwidth I'll need to stream while I'm there? Paige, I'll bring dessert. That chocolate thing you like, Noah. Mom, so thoughtful of you to host a planning dinner, sweetheart. Dad, I'll bring my tape measure to get some dimensions. Not one of them had picked up on the important things to discuss part. Not one of them had asked what might be going on in my life. It was a familiar feeling being overlooked in the whirlwind of family needs. But this time, for the first time, I was going to have to put myself first. I spent the rest of the evening marinating chicken, preparing sides, and rehearsing what I would say. Tomorrow would change everything. I just had to find the courage to speak up when the time came. By 5:30 the next evening, my house smelled like garlic herbs, and the chocolate cake Paige had promised to bring but had predictably forgotten. I'd made it myself, knowing from experience that my sister's good intentions rarely translated to follow-through. The table was set for 6 wine, was breathing, and I had rehearsed my announcement at least 20 times in my head. Madison arrived first, bringing not dessert or wine but a stack of paint swatches and fabric samples. These are from my bedroom after the renovation, she explained, spreading them across my carefully set table. But I thought I could maybe use some of these ideas in your guest room while I'm here. Spruce it up a bit. Actually, Madison, that's something we need to talk about tonight. The doorbell rang, cutting me off. Ryan walked in with a massive gaming monitor under one arm. Thought I'd bring this over early, he said by way of greeting. Where were you thinking I should set up my gaming station? The guest room, or would the den work better? I'll need good Wi-Fi. Ryan, about that. The door opened again without a knock. Mom and Dad bustled in, arms full of boxes. Just a few essentials, Mom said, setting down a box that clinked suspiciously. I recognized her collection of ceramic frogs that normally covered every surface of their house. The rest of our things will come over the day before the renovation starts. Dad immediately took out a tape measure and began sizing up my living room. Thinking we could put the sectional right here, he muttered to himself. Have to move that bookshelf, though. Paige arrived last, empty-handed but full of energy. Sorry about the cake. Got caught up with friends. But I did pick out which towels I want to use while I'm here. The blue ones in your hall closet, if that's okay. I stood in my own living room watching as my family rearranged my furniture in their minds, claimed my spaces, and planned their temporary lives in my house, all without a single person asking if this arrangement worked for me. Dinner's ready, I said, finally unable to find an opening for my announcement in the flurry of activity. We sat around the table, and I waited for a natural break in conversation to share my news. It never came. So I'm thinking we establish a bathroom schedule, Madison was saying. 6 people, 2 bathrooms will need to be organized. And a cooking rotation, Mom added. Though Noah makes the best meals, so maybe he should take more turns. Speaking of turns, Ryan chimed in. We'll need a television schedule too. My shows are non-negotiable. And I'll need quiet time for my morning yoga, Paige said. The living room would be perfect for that. I could build some temporary storage in the garage for our bigger items Dad offered, already mentally reconstructing my house. I cleared my throat. Actually, I have some news. Oh, before I forget, Madison interrupted, pulling out her phone. I already gave notice at my apartment since the timing worked out so perfectly with the renovation. My lease ends next week. My stomach clenched. This was getting more complicated by the minute. That's great timing, Mom beamed. It all works out so well when family helps family. About that, I tried again. I wanted to talk to you all about... Noah, which dresser drawers can I use in the guest room? Paige asked. And do you have space in your closet for some of my hanging clothes? The thing is, son, is your Wi-Fi good enough for 6 people using it simultaneously? Dad asked. We might need to upgrade your package temporarily. Every time I tried to steer the conversation toward my announcement, someone would bulldoze over me with another question about their stay. It was like trying to swim upstream in a river of family assumptions and plans. The dinner I had prepared with such care was consumed amid discussions about shower schedules, kitchen shelf space, and who would handle grocery shopping. Not once did anyone ask about my life, my plans, or why I had called this family dinner in the first place. I remembered a family vacation when I was 12. We had gone to the beach, and while everyone else built sandcastles and played in the waves, I had spent the day tracking down Madison's lost sunglasses, helping Ryan, after he stepped on a sharp shell, applying sunscreen to Paige's back, and fetching snacks for my parents. By the time I thought to enjoy myself, it was time to leave. I never got in the water. 20 years later, nothing had changed. I was still on the shore watching everyone else swim. Noah, Madison's voice pulled me back to the present. You're quiet. Is the chicken dry or something? 5 pairs of eyes turned to me expectantly. This was my moment. I began, then faltered as I saw the excitement in my mother's eyes about the family being together. The relief in my father's expression at having solved their housing problem. The anticipation in my siblings' faces. I just wanted to say, I'm glad I could help out. I finished, lamely hating myself for the lie. The conversation immediately returned to renovation plans, sleeping arrangements, and the logistics of 5 people moving into a space designed for 1. I sat silently, pushing food around my plate, trying to figure out when and how I had become incapable of directing my own life. After dessert, as everyone helped clean up, their first acknowledgement of my efforts all evening, Taylor texted me, "How did it go?" I replied with a single word, "Didn't." Later that night, after everyone had left with promises to return with more of their belongings soon, I sat on my couch staring at the email confirmation for my one-way ticket to Singapore. 5 days until departure. 5 days to find the courage to tell my family the truth. I thought about canceling the move, requesting a delayed start date, finding a way to accommodate everyone's needs as I always did. Then I looked around at my house, my sanctuary, my achievement, the physical manifestation of the boundaries I had worked so hard to create, and imagined it filled with family chaos for 3 solid months. I imagined putting my dreams on hold once again to solve someone else's problem. For the first time in my life, I wasn't sure I could do it. More importantly, I wasn't sure I wanted to. The next morning, I decided to take a different approach. Rather than attempting to tell everyone at once, I would speak with each family member individually, divide and conquer, start with the most reasonable one, and work my way up to the most difficult. Madison was first. We met for coffee at a spot downtown, safely neutral territory. She arrived 15 minutes late, which gave me time to rehearse my opening lines. "Thanks for meeting me," I said, as she sat down, already typing something on her phone. "No problem, though I have a million things to do before the move. Did you know how expensive storage units are? That's why it's so amazing we can stay with you instead." I took a deep breath. "About that, Madison, I have something important to tell you." She looked up from her phone. "You're repainting before we arrive. That's thoughtful but unnecessary." "No, it's about my availability. The thing is, I've accepted a new job. In Singapore. I leave next week." Madison blinked at me. Once, twice. Then she laughed. "Very funny. You almost had me there." "I'm serious, Madison. It's an amazing opportunity. International experience, career advancement, a significant raise. I've already accepted the offer and bought my plane ticket. Her smile faded. But what about us? What about the renovation? We need your house, Noah. I know the timing is unfortunate. Unfortunate, Madison's voice rose. It's catastrophic. Where are we supposed to go? I've already given notice at my apartment. I understand this complicates things. Complicates, Noah, this. Ruins everything. How could you do this to us, to me? And there it was. Not congratulations on your new job or what an amazing opportunity. Just how my success was an inconvenience to her plans. I didn't do anything to you, Madison. This opportunity came up and I took it. My career is important to me. More important than your family, apparently. She gathered her things. I can't believe how selfish you're being right now. She left before I could respond. The bell above the coffee shop door, jingling merrily in contrast to the heavy feeling in my chest. 1 down, 4 to go. Ryan was next. I caught him between shifts at the brewery, where he worked part-time while figuring out his next move, a state he'd been in for roughly 6 years now. Singapore, he repeated after I told him. That's random. Can't you start in like 4 months? After we're done with the reno? It doesn't work that way, Ryan. They need someone now. I start orientation next week. Ryan shrugged. Just tell them you have a family emergency or something. They'll understand. This is a major international company. I can't just postpone a position they've been trying to fill for months. Sure you can. People do it all the time. Family first, right? He glanced at his watch. Speaking of which, can I borrow $200 just until payday? Bar tabs were killer this week. The conversation with Ryan left me feeling like I was trying to explain quantum physics to a golden retriever. Not because he couldn't understand, but because he simply wasn't interested in anything that didn't directly benefit or entertain him. Paige was even worse. I stopped by her apartment, which looked like a clothing store had exploded inside it. Boxes were already half-packed. I can't talk right now, Noah. I'm so stressed about this move. But look, she held up a stack of mail. I already started having some packages delivered to your address, since I knew I'd be there when they arrived. Hope that's okay. Actually, Paige, that's what I came to talk about. I won't be there when those packages arrive. What followed was a tearful monologue about how I had always been her favorite brother, how she had been so excited to spend quality time with me during the renovation, and how she had already told all her friends they could come hang out at my place because my television was bigger than hers. But your job is in Portland, she said, wiping her eyes. You can't just leave. I can, and I am. This is an incredible opportunity for me. What about my incredible opportunity to not be homeless? She countered, lower lip, trembling in a way that had secured her whatever she wanted since childhood. By the time I left Paige's apartment, she wasn't speaking to me, and I felt like the villain in a family drama. My parents were my last hope for reasonable reactions. I drove to their house that evening, the familiar suburban street lined with maple trees my father had planted when they first moved in 30 years ago. Their house was in the early stages of pre-renovation chaos. Boxes everywhere, furniture draped in sheets, and in the middle of it all, my parents bickering amiably about which kitchen cabinets to install in the new design. Noah, Mom exclaimed when she saw me. Perfect timing, green cabinets or white. Actually, I came to talk about something else, something important. We sat in their living room, the only space not yet dismantled. I told them about Singapore, about the opportunity, about how hard I'd worked for this chance. I emphasized the career advancement, the international experience, the salary increase, all the things that would impress practical parents. Mom listened with a furrowed brow. Dad's expression grew increasingly stony. But what about our renovation? Mom finally asked. Where will we stay? And your siblings, Dad added. They're counting on you, son. I know the timing is challenging, I acknowledged, but this opportunity won't come around again. I have to take it. We sacrificed so much for you kids, Mom said, her voice, taking on the martyred tone I knew too well. All those piano lessons and soccer camps and college tuition payments. We always put you children first. And now when we need you, you're running off to the other side of the world, Dad added. It's not about running away, I tried to explain. It's about running towards something important to me. More important than family, Mom asked, echoing Madison's words exactly. I left my parents' house feeling worse than when I had arrived. Not a single word of congratulations, not a hint of pride in my accomplishment. Just disappointment that their reliable son, their perpetual problem solver, was finally prioritizing his own life. Back at home, I found packages addressed to Paige already stacked on my porch. Inside, I checked my email to find a message from my new company. Final confirmation needed. Please confirm your start date for Monday, April 15th. Housing arrangements have been finalized and orientation schedule attached. Reply with confirmation to process final visa approval. 3 days until departure. 3 days to either stand firm or cave to family pressure. I drafted a careful email to the entire family. No more one-on-one conversations where they could manipulate my emotions or dismiss my needs. Just the facts clearly stated. Dear family, I want to formally let you know that I have accepted a position with International Tech Solutions as their Senior Technology Implementation Director, Southeast Asia Division. This position is based in Singapore. I begin orientation on Monday, April 15th, which means I will be flying out this Saturday. I understand this news impacts the renovation housing plans. I am happy to help brainstorm alternative arrangements, but staying at my house will not be possible as I will not be there. I plan to rent it out while I'm away. This opportunity is extremely important to me professionally and personally. I hope you can understand and support my decision. Love, Noah. I read it over 3 times, then hit send before I could change my mind. Then I turned off my phone, opened a beer, and waited for the storm to hit. When I turned my phone back on the next morning, I had 37 text messages, 12 missed calls, and a group chat that had exploded with family reactions. I scrolled through them with a growing sense of dread. Madison, is this some kind of joke? Please tell me this is a joke. Ryan, dude, not cool. What are we supposed to do now? Paige, I'm literally crying right now. How could you do this to us? Mom, call me immediately. We need to talk about this selfishness. Dad, very disappointed, son. Very disappointed. I set my phone down and took a deep breath. The collective guilt they were heaping on me was suffocating even from a distance. Part of me wanted to call them all back, apologize profusely, and figure out how to delay my departure. The part that had been keeping the peace and solving family problems for 32 years. But another part, a quieter, newer part, whispered that if I gave in now, I would be setting a precedent for the rest of my life. That voice sounded suspiciously like Taylor. My phone rang. Madison, I answered, bracing myself. What the hell, Noah? No greeting, just immediate attack. You dropped this bomb via email, after we've all made plans, after I gave notice at my apartment. I tried to tell everyone at dinner. Well, you didn't try hard enough. This is so inconsiderate, so selfish. Madison, do you have any idea what this does to all of us? Mom and Dad are freaking out. Paige won't stop crying. Ryan is talking about moving in with that awful girlfriend of his because he has nowhere else to go. I understand this complicates things. Complicates. She was practically shrieking now. It ruins everything, everything. Noah, why would you do this? Why now? Why didn't you tell us sooner? I waited until she paused for breath. I tried to tell you, multiple times. No one would listen. Oh, so this is our fault now. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying this is an incredible opportunity for me, and I wish my family could be happy for me instead of only thinking about how it inconveniences them. Silence on the other end. Then, in a quieter voice, You're really going, aren't you? Yes, Madison. I'm really going. After hanging up with Madison, Ryan called. His approach was different, less emotional outburst, more logical manipulation. Look, man, I get it. Big job, big opportunity. But the timing is awful. Can't you ask to start in July? After the renovation? 3 months isn't that long in the grand scheme of things. They need someone now, Ryan. The position starts Monday. There are always workarounds. Tell them you have a family situation, medical thing. They legally can't ask for details. I'm not going to lie to my new employer before I even start. It's not lying, it's just prioritizing. Come on, Noah. You're really going to leave us all hanging like this? I'm not leaving anyone hanging. I'm pursuing my career. There are other housing solutions. Like what, hotels for 3 months? That would bankrupt all of us. There are short-term rentals, extended stay hotels, with family rates, friends who might help out. None as convenient or cheap as staying with you. And there it was, the real issue. Not that I was leaving, but that my absence was creating a financial and logistical problem for everyone else. Not concern for me, but concern about what they were losing. My parents called next, putting me on speakerphone so they could tag team their disappointment. We've always been proud of how responsible you are, Mom began. Until now. Your timing couldn't be worse, Dad added. We've already scheduled the contractors, paid deposits. I understand that, but... Do you? Mom interrupted. Do you understand what it means to be part of a family? Noah, to support each other through difficult times. This isn't a life or death situation, Mom. It's a house renovation. A voluntary project that you planned without consulting me about staying at my place. We shouldn't have to consult you, Dad said gruffly. Your family. Family helps family. Yes, and family also celebrates family successes, I countered. Not one of you has said congratulations or we're proud of you since I announced this news. Silence. We are proud, Mom finally said, though her tone suggested otherwise. We just don't understand why it has to be now, or why it has to be Singapore of all places, so far away. The conversation circled without resolution. They couldn't understand my perspective, and I was done trying to make them see it. When we hung up, nothing was settled except the knowledge that I had disappointed them deeply. Paige didn't call. She sent a single text, I thought you cared about us. It was followed by a broken heart emoji which felt melodramatic even for Paige. I spent that evening packing, methodically sorting what would go to Singapore, what would stay in the house if I rented it out, and what would go into storage. The mindless task helped calm my racing thoughts. Around midnight, Taylor came over with pizza and beer. So how bad was the fallout, they asked, sitting cross-legged on my living room floor amidst half-packed boxes. Nuclear winter level. According to my family, I'm selfish, inconsiderate, and possibly the worst son and brother in recorded history. Because you're advancing your career instead of solving their housing crisis. Exactly. Not one of them has congratulated me. Not one of them has asked about the job itself or why I'm excited about it. It's all about how my decision affects them. Taylor took a swig of beer. You know what's happening, right? They're making you question yourself, making you feel guilty for having boundaries. Classic family manipulation. Is it manipulation if they genuinely need help? It's manipulation when they assume your help without asking, then make you the bad guy for not providing it. They're adults, Noah. They'll figure it out. But what if they don't? What if they end up in a terrible living situation because of me? Then they learn a valuable lesson about planning ahead and not making assumptions. And you learn a valuable lesson about not setting yourself on fire to keep others warm. I considered this. When did you get so wise about family dynamics? Taylor laughed. Therapy, my friend. Lots and lots of therapy. By the time Taylor left, my resolve had strengthened. I was going to Singapore. I was going to pursue this opportunity, and I was going to let my family figure out their own housing situation, even if it meant enduring their disappointment and anger. 2 days until departure. The countdown was on. I spent most of Friday finalizing my packing, setting up mail forwarding, and arranging for a property management company to handle my house while I was away. I had decided not to rent it to my family, a decision that would undoubtedly create even more conflict, but one that felt necessary for maintaining boundaries. I was in the middle of emptying my refrigerator when the doorbell rang. I opened the door to find not one family member, but all of them standing on my porch with determined expressions. Madison, Ryan, Paige, Mom, and Dad. A united front. And they had boxes. Lots of boxes. What's going on? I asked, though I had a sinking feeling I knew exactly what was happening. We're moving in, Madison announced, pushing past me with a box labeled kitchen. What? No, you're not. I'm leaving tomorrow. The house will be managed by a property company. We've discussed it, Dad said, following Madison with 2 suitcases, and we've decided this is still the best solution. You can go to Singapore and we'll take care of your house while you're gone. That's not how it works, I protested as Ryan and Paige streamed past me with more belongings. You can't just decide to move into someone's house without their permission. We're family, Mom said, patting my cheek as she walked by with a box of her ceramic frogs. We don't need permission. I stood in my own doorway watching in disbelief as my family began unloading their cars and distributing their belongings throughout my house. This wasn't happening. This couldn't be happening. Stop, I finally shouted loud enough that everyone froze. Everyone stop right now and look at me. 5 surprised faces turned in my direction. You need to take your things and leave. Immediately. Noah, be reasonable, Mom began. No, you be reasonable. This is my house. My property. I've made arrangements for it while I'm gone, and those arrangements don't include any of you living here. But where are we supposed to go? Paige asked, her voice small. That's not my problem to solve. I said the words, feeling foreign in my mouth. I love you all, but I'm not responsible for housing you during a renovation you planned. We're your family, Dad said, as if that explained and excused everything. Yes, you are. And family should respect each other's boundaries and decisions. Family should support each other's dreams, not just their own convenience. Madison stepped forward, arms crossed. So you're really choosing this job over helping your family. That's the kind of person you are now. I'm choosing myself, I corrected her. Maybe for the first time ever. And yes, that's the kind of person I am now. The kind who doesn't set aside his own needs and dreams to solve everyone else's problems. Selfish, Mom muttered. Something inside me snapped. Years of being the reliable one, the fixer, the peacemaker, all while my own needs were overlooked or minimized, came rushing to the surface. Selfish. You want to talk about selfish? My voice was trembling. How about making plans to use someone's house for 3 months, without asking them first? How about not once, not a single time congratulating your son on a major career accomplishment? How about making someone else's achievement? All about how it inconveniences you. I was shouting now, years of repressed frustration flowing out. How about constantly expecting me to solve your problems, manage your crises, and accommodate your needs, while never once considering mine? That's selfish. What I'm doing, pursuing my career, setting boundaries, prioritizing my future that's healthy. The room fell silent. My family stared at me as if I'd grown a second head. I had never spoken to them like this before, never stood my ground so firmly. Mom's eyes filled with tears. How can you speak to us this way? After all we've done for you. I'm grateful for everything you've done for me. I said, my voice calmer now. But that doesn't obligate me to sacrifice my opportunities for your convenience. That's not how healthy family relationships work. So what are we supposed to do now? Madison demanded. I have nowhere to live as of Monday. And that's a difficult situation that I sympathize with. But it's a situation you created by giving notice before confirming alternative housing. It's not my responsibility to fix it. Ryan scoffed. Big Brother finally grew a spine. Yes, I agreed. I did. And I'm asking all of you to respect that by taking your belongings and leaving my house now. But the renovation Dad started. Is your project not mine? I'm happy to help you brainstorm alternative housing options, but I will not be guilted or manipulated into changing my plans or letting you take over my house. I can't believe you're being so cold, Paige said, tears streaming down her face. This isn't like you, Noah. Maybe it should have been, I replied softly. Maybe I should have started setting boundaries a long time ago. The standoff continued for what felt like hours, but was probably only minutes. Finally, Dad sighed deeply. Let's go, he said to the others. Noah's made his decision. But our things, Madison protested. We'll take them back to the car, Dad said firmly. If Noah doesn't want us here, we can't force ourselves on him. One by one, they gathered the boxes and bags they had brought in and carried them back outside. The process was silent and tense. no one making eye contact with me as they filed past. When the last box had been removed, my family gathered on the front lawn. I stood in the doorway feeling both terrible and vindicated. "I really am sorry about the timing," I said. "And I'm happy to help you find alternative arrangements, but this is something I need to do for myself." "We'll figure it out," Dad said stiffly. "We always do. I hope you enjoy Singapore," Mom added, though her tone suggested she hoped for the opposite. They drove away without hugs, without well wishes for my journey, without any acknowledgement of what this opportunity meant to me, just disappointment and hurt feelings. I closed the door and leaned against it, emotions swirling. Part of me felt guilty for hurting them. Another part felt proud for finally standing up for myself. And a small, quiet part wondered if I had just irreparably damaged my family relationships for the sake of a job. One day until departure. I had won the battle, but at what cost? I slept poorly that night, replaying the confrontation in my mind. By morning, I had made a decision. I wouldn't change my plans to go to Singapore, but I would try one more time to help my family on my terms, not theirs. I called Jackson, a college friend who worked in property management, and explained the situation. "So you need short-term housing for 5 adults for approximately 3 months, he clarified after I finished my explanation. "Exactly. And it needs to be relatively affordable. That's a tall order on short notice, but let me see what I can do. I know a few property owners who might be willing to do a short-term lease." "Thank you. This means a lot." "No problem. And Noah, good for you for setting boundaries. That couldn't have been easy." His words stayed with me as I finished my final packing. Setting boundaries wasn't easy. It felt uncomfortable, even wrong in some ways. But it was also necessary. 3 hours later, Jackson called back. "I've got something. 3-bedroom townhouse, fully furnished, available for a 3-month lease. The owner was planning to list it for sale but is willing to delay for a guaranteed short-term rental. It's not fancy, but it's clean and in a decent neighborhood." "That sounds perfect. What's the catch?" "It's about 20% above what they'd normally pay for a comparable, unfurnished place, and they'd need to move in today or tomorrow. Send me the details and the rental agreement. I'll cover the difference in cost." "You sure about that? You just stood your ground about not being responsible for their housing." "I considered this. I'm not doing it out of obligation. I'm doing it because I want to, because I care about them, even when they're driving me crazy. There's a difference." Once I had the rental information, I called a family meeting at my parents' house. This time I would be the one showing up unannounced with a plan in hand. They were sitting around the kitchen table when I arrived, looking defeated. Boxes were stacked against walls, furniture was draped in protective covers, and the air was heavy with unspoken tension. "I found you a place," I announced without preamble, laying the rental information on the table. 3-bedroom townhouse, furnished, available for a 3-month lease starting immediately. The cost is slightly above what you were expecting, but I'll cover the difference." They stared at the papers, then at me. "Why would you do this after yesterday?" Madison finally asked. "Because you're my family, and I love you. Because I want to help, even though I can't do it the way you originally wanted. And because I want us to part on better terms before I leave." Mom reached for the rental information with trembling hands. "This looks nice." "It is. Jackson, you remember him from college. He works in property management now. He pulled some strings to find this on short notice." "We can move in tomorrow?" Dad asked, studying the address. "Today if you want. The owner is flexible." "What about the cost difference?" Ryan asked. "How much are we talking?" "About 20% more than you'd normally pay. I've already sent the deposit and first month's rent, including the difference. I'll handle the additional amount for all 3 months." "You don't have to do that," Dad said, pride evident in his voice. "I want to. Consider it my contribution to the family during the renovation." Paige, who had been uncharacteristically quiet, finally spoke. "I'm sorry we tried to guilt you about Singapore. That wasn't fair." "No, it wasn't," I agreed. "Just like it wasn't fair of me to shout at all of you yesterday. We all could have handled this better." "Your job," Mom said hesitantly, Is it really a good opportunity? It was the first time any of them had asked about the actual position. It's incredible. International experience with a leading tech company, significant career advancement, and the chance to build something from the ground up. Plus, I get to live in one of the most dynamic cities in Asia. You always did want to travel more, Dad acknowledged. I did. And now I get to do it while advancing my career. How long will you be gone? Madison asked. The contract is for 2 years minimum. After that, we'll see. 2 years, Mom repeated softly. That's a long time. It is. But there's video calls, and you can visit. Singapore is actually an amazing vacation destination. Maybe we'll do that, Dad said, surprising me. Once the renovation is done and we're settled back in our house, come see you in your new world. Something warm spread through my chest. It wasn't quite enthusiastic support, but it was acceptance. It was a start. I'd like that, I said simply. We spent the next few hours making plans for their move to the townhouse. The tension gradually eased as we focused on solutions rather than problems. Cooperation rather than conflict. By the time I left to finish my own packing, hugs were exchanged, tentative ones, but hugs nonetheless. Have a safe flight tomorrow, Mom said as I was leaving, her eyes still sad but her voice sincere. I will, and I'll call once I'm settled. You better, Paige warned, or I'm flying over there to check on you myself. I laughed. That sounds like an expensive welfare check. Worth it for my favorite brother, she replied with a small smile. As I drove home for my last night in Portland, I realized that this was the first time I had truly stood up for myself with my family. It had been messy and painful but necessary, and somehow we had found our way to a resolution that respected both their needs and mine. Tomorrow would bring a new country, a new job, a new chapter of life, but it would also bring a slightly new version of me, one who knew how to set boundaries without sacrificing relationships, one who could help family without losing himself in the process. It felt like growth. It felt unexpectedly like freedom. 1 month into my Singapore adventure, I sat on the balcony of my apartment, watching the city lights shimmer against the evening sky. The humidity wrapped around me like a warm blanket, so different from Portland's crisp spring air. On my laptop screen, 5 familiar faces peered back at me from different boxes in our weekly video call. How's the new place working out? I asked, taking a sip of local coffee that had become my newest addiction. Better than expected, Madison admitted, adjusting her camera to show part of the townhouse living room. The neighborhood has great restaurants within walking distance. And the neighbor's dog loves me, Paige chimed in. She lets me walk him when she's working late. The renovation hit a snag, though, Dad reported with a grimace. Plumbing issues. Might take an extra month. Good thing the lease is flexible, I said, feeling a wave of relief that I had helped secure the townhouse instead of leaving them scrambling. How's the new job? Mom asked, her face close to the camera, as she still hadn't quite figured out video call technology. Are they treating you well? It's challenging, but in the best way. I'm heading up a team implementing new systems across Southeast Asia. Last week I was in Thailand for meetings. Thailand, Ryan exclaimed. That's awesome. Take pictures for me. I've always wanted to go there. You should visit, I offered. All of you should. My apartment has a guest room and the company gives me generous vacation time. It wasn't a perfect conversation. There were still moments of tension, like when Mom mentioned how hard certain holidays would be without me, or when Madison made a comment about how I'd abandoned them right before the renovation. But these moments were briefer, less loaded with guilt and manipulation than they would have been before. After the call ended, I walked to my window and looked out at the Singapore skyline. This past month had been transformative in ways I hadn't anticipated. The job was everything I'd hoped for, challenging, engaging, filled with growth opportunities. But the personal growth had been even more significant. For the first time in my life, I was making decisions based solely on what I wanted, not on what my family needed or expected. I was setting boundaries and maintaining them, even across thousands of miles. And surprisingly, my relationships with my family seemed to be improving rather than deteriorating. Madison had sent me a message last week that still resonated. I need to apologize properly for how I reacted to your news. It was selfish of me to make your opportunity about my inconvenience. I'm proud of you for taking this leap, and a little jealous of your courage." Ryan had started asking my advice about his own career options, wondering if maybe it was time to find something more stable and fulfilling than bartending. He'd never sought my input on important life decisions before. Paige had sent me photos of her first attempt at setting up a budget, something I'd been gently encouraging her to do for years. "Adulting is hard," she'd written, "but you make it look possible." My parents were slower to adjust, still occasionally making comments about me being so far away, or hoping I'd get this out of my system and come back soon. But they were trying. Dad had asked for a virtual tour of my office, showing genuine interest in my work. Mom had started learning about Singaporean cuisine so she could attempt to recreate dishes I described. Small steps. Imperfect progress. But progress nonetheless. The property management company reported that my house was well maintained in my absence. I had decided not to rent it out, after all preferring to keep it as my home base for when I eventually returned. The family had respected this decision, though not without some initial pushback. As I prepared for bed that night, I reflected on the lessons of the past month. First, that setting boundaries wasn't selfish, it was necessary for healthy relationships. By standing firm about my Singapore plans, I had actually improved my family dynamics rather than damaging them. Second, that helping others should come from choice, not obligation. My decision to assist with finding and partially funding the townhouse meant more because it was freely given, not extracted through guilt or manipulation. Third, that distance, both physical and emotional, could sometimes strengthen connections rather than weaken them. Being thousands of miles away had forced better communication, more intentional interaction, and greater appreciation for our limited time together. And finally, that it was never too late to change established patterns. For 32 years, I had been the family fixer, the reliable one who set aside his own needs for others. Changing that dynamic had been uncomfortable, even painful at times, but ultimately healing for everyone involved. My phone buzzed with a text from Taylor. "1-month anniversary of your great escape. How's freedom treating you?" I smiled as I typed my response. "Better than I ever imagined. Turns out the view is pretty amazing when you're not setting yourself on fire to keep everyone else warm." The next morning I woke up early for a conference call with clients in Australia. As I prepared my notes, an email notification appeared from my mother. "Noah, I've been thinking a lot about our family dynamics and your decision to move to Singapore. I realize now how often we've taken your reliability for granted, expecting you to solve our problems instead of supporting your dreams. I'm sorry for not seeing that sooner. Your father and I are proud of you, not just for your career success, but for having the courage to choose your own path. We love you and look forward to visiting your new city soon. Take care of yourself, not everyone else, for a change. Love, Mom." I read the email twice, feeling something shift and settle inside me. This was the acknowledgement I had wanted all along, not just acceptance of my decision, but recognition of the pattern that had made that decision so difficult to make. Singapore's morning sun streamed through my window, casting long shadows across my apartment. In a few hours, I would lead a meeting, make decisions that affected an entire region's technological infrastructure, and continue building the career I had dreamed of. I would do it as someone who had finally learned to balance family loyalty with self-respect, love with boundaries, helping others with helping myself. I was thousands of miles from the place I had always called home, but somehow I had never felt more at home in my own life. Have you ever had to choose between family expectations and your own dreams? I'd love to hear your stories in the comments below. Don't forget to like this video if you've ever had to set difficult boundaries with loved ones, and subscribe for more real-life stories about navigating complicated family dynamics. Thank you for listening to my journey, and remember, sometimes the most loving thing you can do for others is to honor your own path first.